I would hope that my figures are correct, but I guess this demands some double checking.
So, and when you say since the escalation of hostilities, since the 27th of November.
Yeah. Okay. Sylviane Zeil.
Thank you. It's on Syria. With Aleppo, Hama, and now Homs under pro-Turkey control, are Aleppo, Idlib, Hama, and Homs considered to be under Turkish jurisdiction or domination?
I mean, the territorial integrity of Syria needs to be respected, and it continues to be honored by the United Nations. Now, obviously, there are a lot of different groups fighting, and the government doesn't have effective control over all its territory. The extrapolation and analysis I will leave to journalists.
It's not another question. Aleppo is now in Aleppo, the Turkish flag reportedly flies on the citadel, and the Turkish lira has replaced the Syrian currency. Given that Syria is a sovereign country, as you said, how does the United Nations foresee the future of Syria?
Look, the future of Syria needs to belong to the Syrian people, right? We have the political roadmap, Resolution 2254, thank you. And this is what we've been saying since the beginning. It's what Geir Pedersen has been saying from the beginning. We need to return to a political discussion. We need to return to a political solution, to respect the rights and the human rights of every Syrian, to respect Syrian territorial sovereignty and its integrity, to stop going from crisis management to crisis management, but to move to crisis resolution, to find a resolution to this crisis.
The President Bashar is either in Qatar or Moscow forever. With whom you will have to discuss for
Look,
the dialogue.
I have no information about the whereabouts of the President of Syria. We continue to deal with all relevant actors in this, including the government of Syria. Mr. Pedersen spoke to Foreign Minister Sabag not long ago. Madame, and then we'll go to Deji.
Just to follow up on that, you talked about Geir Pedersen meeting with all the parties involved. Is there any movement in getting the parties to talk to each other and come to a peaceful resolution?
We know Mr. Pedersen is on his way to Doha for the Doha Forum. As we've told you, a number of other foreign ministers will be there. We expect him to have some meetings tomorrow. There's also a meeting of the Astana format tomorrow. So let this crisis be an opportunity to move solidly forward on finding a political solution. Deji.
Yeah, several questions. First, also a follow-up on Syria. With the development fastly changing, what is the capacity now for the UN there to offer humanitarian help for those people?
Well, we continue to do whatever we can. Obviously, while combat is ongoing, while fighting is ongoing, it limits our ability to distribute aid. It limits the ability of people to seek aid, right? So you're more in a shelter-in-place situation. There are other areas of Syria that are not under government control, in which we're able to operate. So I would hope, and I know that as soon as areas are facing less combat, our humanitarian operations can deploy in various ways, either through us or through local partners.
Well, the head of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, Mr. Jilani, when accepting interviews, he said his objective is to overthrow the Syrian government. What is your reaction?
We do not want to see any more violence. We do not want to see any more fighting. We want to see a political solution so the people of Syria can have the future that they deserve, a future of peace and reconciliation.
Okay, a completely different topic here. The UN Committee of Enforced Disappearances, yesterday, I think December 5th, they released a report on Colombia. I don't know whether the Secretary General is aware of that report or not. In that report, they suggest that over 20,000 unidentified bodies are allegedly stored in a hangar at Bogota's El Dorado International Airport. which got denied by Colombian government. I mean, where did that source come from?
So we're aware of the publication of the preliminary findings of this committee, right, which is an independent committee. It's not an SG-led initiative. And the committee, as you know, is the Committee on Enforced Disappearances. They went to Colombia. The committee, as you know, is made up of independent member states. It monitors the compliance of member states who have adhered to the Convention on the Protection of All Persons from Enforced Disappearances. It issues recommendations. We're not in a position to, obviously, to comment on these preliminary findings. It's up to the committee to do so, but we will continue to keep an eye on this very closely.
It's very difficult to imagine 20,000 corpses in the hangar.
I'm not debating that point. Okay, Stefano.
Yes,
And then
thank you,
Dulce.
Stefan. It's a follow-up on Syria. President Erdogan today said that he hoped that the march of these rebels arrived to Damascus without incident. So my question is about the call that the Secretary General had yesterday with President Erdogan. I mean, he told us he had that call, but we didn't really know, first, what he asked to President Erdogan, because he called, he must have asked something, and what Erdogan responded. Erdogan said that he responded, I mean, they released a document about the conversation when they say, I told to Secretary General that Assad didn't respond to demand to meet. So my question is, what the Secretary General said or asked to President Erdogan?
As you can imagine, I'm not going to speak for the presidency of Turkey and share with you what the president said with the Secretary General. For his part, the Secretary General, this is part of ongoing consultations that he is and will be having with regional players, including as part of the overall work of the UN, including what Mr. Pedersen is doing. The Secretary General's appeal was for greater humanitarian access, obviously, and for recommitment of all the parties and not only the parties in Syria, but the parties, those countries that have an influence over the parties, who are also involved in the region, to recommit to a political process outlined by Resolution 2254. Dulce.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you, given the decimation of Hamas in Gaza, what, if you know, is the health ministry? Is it still operating?
I mean, it is operating in whatever way it can operate. We continue to get casualty figures from them, and we continue to be in touch with them in terms, especially of the functioning, or should we say, non-functioning of the hospitals in Gaza.
So, to your knowledge, it's basically still operating?
It is operating in whatever way it's able to operate, but we continue to have contact with officials in the Ministry of Health.
Okay, and on a separate question, the U.S., have they communicated anything to the UN about possibly reinstating funding to UNRWA under the Biden camp, or is
I'm
that
not aware
a
of any. I'm
possibility
not
at all?
aware of any change in that
Okay,
department.
thanks.
Okay. Any questions on the line, and then I'll come back to the room. Okay, Madame Salome.
I'm sure the Secretary General saw this week, when it comes to discussions of Syria in the Security Council, things got pretty heated. There's a lot of finger pointing, a lot of, I mean, frankly, back and forth in the Security Council like I haven't seen in a long time. Has he spoken to any of those players, and what would his message be to the United States, Russia, and other outside parties?
I mean, his message to the Council is, again, to not to repeat myself, is one of unity and cooperation. This organization, the people of the world benefit from unity of the Security Council, especially when it comes to issues of peace and security. He is happening today to have one of his regular lunches with the 5 permanent members of the Security Council. So I'm sure those messages will be delivered. Okay, anyone online? Okay, I would ask you just to be patient, maybe come back in exactly 15 minutes for the background briefing on the trip. You come back, thank you. Okay.
The government buildings over there and back connecting to the mouth of the river. But the second time it flooded, it looked like this. Like it was a beautiful blue sky, clear day, the sun was out, and we just had the king tides coupled with that wind, and it was enough to give it the power to come over. Oh, it keeps shifting. Every time I post it, they're always super jealous of all my posts until that one week comes in winter when I'm